Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Classic West podcast, where we venture through the annals of hip hop and we look for albums and see why they are classics. And, this week we'll be talking about Ganksta NIP, Mr. Ganksta NIP. The South Park Psycho is the album. My name is HSR.
I am your lady friend, Bonnie.
And yeah, before we jump into it, we're going to do the intro bit. So if you do want to skip that, check the description of this video. So without further ado, we wanted to let you know we are some regular people who are not experts at this.
Regular
Regular stretch.
enough.
Regular in the sense that y'all probably know more about this than we do. You've listened to this album more than we have. Usually we have about a week for each album.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of stuff to frame your opinion of us going in. We're aware that you guys probably have more to contribute than what we've said, and for that reason we love the comment section and highly encourage you to drop some knowledge up in the comments.
Do it.
Anyway, to show some love, we always like to go through the comments. I answer every single one of them because you guys are taking some time. I might as well respond to you. But I got into a great conversation on last week's review comment section where we talked about Run the Jewels' Run the Jewels 2. In there we had Chris RTJ, where it clicked, RTJ, Run the Jewels, right? Anyway, he goes, I hope they do start popping up in local corner stores. We're talking about Cripa-Cola here. I'm not familiar with Faygo. That's the Juggalo soda. But heard of it, but don't know what it is. We'll look it up later. Damn, maybe you're right about Quebec distribution. Shit's fucked up because of language laws. The likelihood of seeing Cripa-Cola here before they're popping is very low unless it's kind of sneaky shipping in. If I can find some, I'll try to send you a case so that I can see it on the shelves case back there. So I really like that comment. Nobody said something like that to me before, so that became my favorite comment. It's just what it is. So that was fun.
And I think that that album, I think it's only getting better. I just am stuck listening to it. I can't stop listening to it.
She's not lying.
Yeah, Run the Jewels 2, I'm obsessed, and I think I listen to it more and I love it even more than when I graded it.
That's fair. And that's not the album we're here for today, but we definitely encourage you to check that out if you have not already done so, which, well, you should just do. Before we get into this week's album, though, well, I'm going to give a special thanks to the patrons, because we got a new patron, so it's a little bit longer now. It's Mr. Carl J., the new one, with Super Old School 1994. He's the one who requested this album through Patreon. There you go. Linda Williams, Ismail Gadamsi, Chris Prado. Got them all. Now there's 5. That's really amazing. And really, over time, seeing the growth, it's amazing. You guys really keep our spirits high, as you can say. Anyway, let's talk about this. We're going to go through the entire album track by track, give our thoughts on each track. So, Bonnie, what album are we talking about today?
So this week we are doing Ganksta NIP. I'm saying that funny because there's a K in there or it's an X. I don't know which one it is. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other, it seems. So
this is a good opportunity, because I couldn't figure it out either, for y'all to describe what the history of why there are so many letter swaps. Is the Ganksta NIP with an X a different persona? All that good shit. I love those essay-looking comment answers that are super big, so feel free to drop that knowledge.
Yeah, and this album is the South Park Psycho, and this was before South Park was a thing. So this was the original South Park, and this came out February 26th, 1992.
Fair enough. So this is the part of the show where we try to contextualize our familiarity with the artist, because the truth of the matter is, if you've been listening to this album for 20 years, your feelings on it are going to be significantly different than, say, ours who have listened to it for a week. And in the middle, if you're a big fan of him, even going back to this album, it's going to be a super big contextual difference. The more knowledge you know of his history and the Houston rap scene in general, and the South Park Coalition in general, the likelihood is your greater appreciation for this album. So that's just kind of what we're doing here, because I don't know Ganksta NIP at all personally. I've never really heard him before. Super Old School in 1994 requested him. That's why we're reviewing him. But what I thought was super interesting is when I clicked that the South Park that he's referring to is the same South Park that K-Rino is referring to. And very recently in my life, I've become a new convert to being a K-Rino fan. We reviewed Mightier Than the Sword, and it blew my mind at how well put together it is. I've been listening to the 4-piece, and we'll have reviews of those coming out over the course of the next couple of weeks, because I really think K-Rino just like blew my fucking mind. So there I was sitting here, and spoiler alert on the intro, listening. He's like, the South Park Coalition, and I'm like, oh, I know what the fuck that is, because K-Rino and whatnot. And that was really, really, really cool to realize that Ganksta NIP is one of the guys who like co-founded this shit and like made it something back in '87 and whatnot. So it really made me want to listen to this album even more, realizing how connected it is to stuff I'm already interested in. So it's really cool to have this opportunity to like talk about it, because most of my music listening lately is whatever the fuck I'm reviewing on this channel. I don't have a lot of time anymore for music I even care to listen to, so it's like, yes, this is interesting. I'm really happy to explore the history here, but I don't know shit all about Ganksta NIP outside of that. I know that this is his first solo album.
Yep.
And he is letting you know he is the South Park Psycho.
Yep.
And I don't know, do you have anything about your feelings there?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know who this guy was. You know, it's been a week, and yeah, he's interesting. That's pretty much all I have to say. Did you like the cover?
It is him without a shirt. I like how the parental advisory sticker is over his belly.
It's it's like ripped out of his abdomen or something.
Like his gut is, or like his spirit or something, or like is what is explicit.
Yeah,
like
but it looks like it was like ripped, like a paper was ripped. Like it looks like that.
It's cool though. It ranks high in the most creative parental advisory warnings I've seen.
It's probably like a collage. Like he put like the back picture on, and then he cut out a picture of himself, and then he cut out that picture of the parental advisory explicit lyrics thing and could put that over top. That's what it looks like.
Thinking about how print used to be, that makes actually a lot of sense. Simple stylized text at the top. I like the hyphens and NIP, which I believe, and it says here on his Wikipedia, NIP stands for the Nation of Islam is Powerful, and he is also a part of the Nation of Islam. So that's really interesting, because that's a subject, just the Nation of Islam, that I plan on personally learning a lot more about over the course of the year. And so just seeing that that's what it stood for, it's like interesting that this guy, you know, has that, the man behind is so anyway, as you go through the album, you're like, well, damn, but it makes sense. It really, really does. So I really don't know that the cover does a lot for me. It's just fine.
It's like there's like a demon in the background, and it's kind of scary.
Looks
and
like an X-ray of a skeleton or something like that.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I didn't know what it was, but it's like red and kind of scary. And then he's standing there like,
or a cat,
aggressive looking.
Could be a cat. No, look at that facial structure. Anyway, maybe I'm wrong.
It's something. I just thought it was like a demon. Yeah, I mean, he looks like ready to fight.
It's like the monsters inside of him ready to pop. I don't know. It's fine. I say we can move into possibly one of Bonnie's favorite songs on the entire album, the intro. Normally we like to let Bonnie start because I talk a lot, but we need to give it some love here. So I love the production of this right away, and I think the production of this album is super gritty but very theatrical in a way that's really well done. I'm not good at describing production very well, but this one has elements of growls and screams and overall horror sounds over this pulsing beat, but it's got a doom doom. So it feels suspense over your heartbeat. Like it's a suspense tone shift over a pulsating rhythmic heartbeat sound. And I was like, that is a really great thing to lace with the growls and screams to create this almost creepy effect. So right away you're just met with that while he kind of starts introducing everything. He introduces himself. He's the most psychotic gangster rapper in the world. And the whole time he's got this creepy, screamy voice. Like he's one of those guys that's probably really loud, and you can picture spit flying out of his mouth as he records this into the microphone. He introduces his producers, his affiliates, Ice-T, whole bunch of other people. He says shit like Deuce, better known as Twice, because he died twice, which I thought was cool. I don't know who Deuce is, but that's a cool thing to know. You know,
He died
like,
twice, yeah.
It's like,
He's that gangster that he's come
you
back.
know what?
He can't be killed.
From a personal enjoyment point of view, I can always live without the credits. But from an establishing your brand, from what was going on in the hip-hop culture point of view, instead of throwing this at the end, he opened up his album with the credits, giving the shout-outs to everybody involved, and just kind of priming you up that this is from the South Park Coalition. You know, that's the last thing you hear, and it's just almost like when you hear the Strange on a Strange Music album. It's kind of like that, only this time instead of stamping it at the end, he's stamping it right at the beginning. In a way, when old-timey movies and shit like Monty Python and crap have the credits happening right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I thought that was super interesting. In a way, it's almost like calling it classic in and of itself, through just putting the credits at the beginning instead of at the end. I don't know if that was deliberate. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know if anyone else has even thought of that. I just thought of that, so that's why it happened. Either way, the chances of me listening to this, if I were to go seek it out on my own, is very little.
Yeah.
But I do think it sets up the album properly, and to go, if I'm going to give this like a whole album listen, it would feel kind of weird without this introduction at this point. So I give it a 4.25.
Oh, wow. I mean, it's creepy right away. We kind of have that kind of like echoey voice, and there's like this like maniacal laughing that's kind of like in like the background. It's a little bit quieter. And then he's just like shouting out all of his friends, and it's just kind of annoying because it's just like, okay, we get it. Like, you have friends. And like
She doesn't get it, guys.
Like,
I'm with you.
Like, I get it that, like, you know, you want to do this, but I don't know. I always find these kind of like drawn out a little bit. It just wasn't really that fun to listen to. Like, he just keeps going on, and then
He really, like, all love intended, he really does. At a certain point, you're like, shit, you're still going.
Yep. Yep, he's still going. And like, I don't know, it's just not like, for me, like, it wasn't a good intro because it's just kind of like, ugh, is this how like the rest of the album's gonna be? Is it gonna be drawn out and like weird like this? So it didn't really like leave me with like the best feeling. Like, it's a very nice gesture. Like, I get it that you're like shouting at all your friends that have helped you out, and like all of like the people that have, you know, supported you along the way and that are working with you or whatever. So it's very nice that he does that, but it's just very boring and it's very skippable. So for me, this is a 3 on 5.
Okay. Let's talk about what's going to happen in the comment section. A horror movie, and when they rap at that keyboard with their fingers.
Has a different infection. Woke up this morning with a dead dog on me.
So before we jump into it, the title of this song and the placement on the album is very smart. I want to give him a lot of like credit for what he's trying to do. I mean, he knows that what he's about to do in 92 is probably going to piss off some people, right? I mean, we see the same kind of stuff. We've talked about what went on with Esham. I know part about Marilyn Manson getting fucking Christians touring around and shit. And there's no way you're going to spit shit like sick in the head, bloodshed in an ant bed, you want a new leg, give me some needle and thread, and go on with some psychotic shit and just kind of not get negative repercussions in light of how prissy the world is at this point. It's like, if you think people are sensitive now, it almost seems like people were like militant, like willing to shut you down sensitive. Like, even cancel culture isn't a new concept the more we look at gangsta rap from the underground. If you really think about it, that's what people were trying to do, in a sense, was when they would hear shocking shit. And I don't know if this happened in NIP. This is just like a trend I've noticed with shocking music. It's not that different than shocking comments. And if there was a Twitter back then, we would see for the boycotts and the shutdowns. And so just something to point out, cancel culture isn't a new phenomenon. It's just amplified in its current state. Something I just thought of because of fucking Ganksta NIP. Isn't it incredible how a 1992 title of a song can inspire interesting commentary on the current state of society.
Yep.
So super old school 1994, that's some dope shit. But for real, it's going to be shocking and shit. And so he's telling you almost this is the genre of what he wants it to be. He's like, and it's an interesting statement how while this is probably not okay in rap or metal, right? It's just not. It's totally okay for the black person to die first in the horror movie, almost to the point where it's a running stereotype. And that's just socially acceptable. I don't know if that was a stereotype in 92. It most certainly...
It was in Jurassic Park. I think that was like, what, 92?
I guess. But it's almost like, to that end, it was like by the time I was 12, everybody knew the black guy died first in the horror movie. It was like a running joke. So I think it's fascinating that you take a black guy... and I apologize if this comes off racist in any way, but you take a black guy who's probably watched a bunch of black guys dying first in a horror movie, and he creates a tale where it's the horror movie and the black guy's doing all the killing. That to me sounds like a healthy use of rage and creativity. That to me sounds like what he's doing here is showing people that there's a way that you could take maybe some of your more violent thoughts and outrage and lay it all down in some rhymes so that maybe you don't snap and do something stupid. Right? I might be wrong, but I'm just building on some shit Bonnie said in our Natas or our Esham review or whatever. That was just kind of like these guys were using this platform to maybe explain their social circumstances and kind of at the same time unleash that aggression that's inside of them. And it's like from a 2019 looking back perspective, it's super clear that you would want somebody to write violent rhymes more than be violent.
Yep.
You just would, unless you're fucking stupid. We know there are stupid people out there, and there are tons of stupid, ignorant ass motherfuckers who obviously don't get it, but it's just really interesting to see these like guys who are in a really social awareness sense trying to just show different things that can be done instead of maybe the safe, boring pop shit that's happening. Because let's be real, at the same time as this is going on, dudes like Young MC is unfortunately pop star types, and MC Hammer is another
and Vanilla
alternative.
Ice, I think he makes like a comment about
So this
as
is
well.
what like I guess the mainstream is seeing, and these guys are probably just paving different lanes for it. It's so fascinating from that point of view.
Yep.
But what did you think about the song?
It sounds like a twisted and like dark version of like a fairy tale or something like that, or like a nursery rhyme. Like it sounds kind of like that. And for me, like I'm very like particular. I like listening to things and like doing things that are like in a line with what's happening in like the year. Like I like doing, you know what I'm talking about.
So what she's trying to say is if it's November and it's Remembrance Day, you have to watch war movies. And if it's like December, it's Christmas movies. And in January, it's what? Some kind of movies.
Well, no, like I had like in January I read like very like winter story
winter theme shit,
books.
and it's always like that. It's fucking terrible, and we can't find anything to watch on Netflix because of her terrible tendencies. All right.
Anyways, so yeah, I do a lot of that. And so for me, like I feel like this one was very like a good song to listen to around Halloween. So I just feel like or like if you're into this kind of sound, then it's good anytime at all, really. But for me, like it just sounded like very, I don't know, that's when I watch horror movies is
it because
Halloween.
he says shit like Ganksta NIP, I'm worse than Freddy. You can't kill me because I'm dead already.
But it's also like the sound of it and everything. It's very creepy. It's very like Halloween soundy. It's kind of sort of like a wind blowing in the background. So it sounds like fall, cold, like that kind of like, it gives you that kind of feeling. And I took a few lines that I thought were pretty interesting. So I'm gonna trade heads with a moose. Gangsta NIP with a psycho voice. Some say I'm insane because I married a dead horse. It's Christmas time. Happy New Year, G. A dead pig's head makes a good ass Christmas tree. And you're like, what? What just happened?
It's very absurdist. It's very, but you know what it is to me?
It's very brutal and violent, but also like very like it's very meant to be shocking.
But what I have to give him a lot of credit for is that it's so out there that it works. Because so often, okay, like here's an example. You can have a rapper talk about how much they like to fuck, but if you really think about their sex lives, their sex sounds very boring. oftentimes they don't have many positions they try. It's really a lot of they get head. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with getting a lot of
Well,
head.
I mean, as we will find out, like this guy is a little bit more adventurous than the regular Joe.
Which is creative. It makes you think and wonder. It almost makes other people seem less creative and boring by comparison, because
That's true.
who is going this extreme? Is Eminem really that extreme? When you hear shit like this, is kind of the thoughts that run through my mind. I mean, at certain points for sure. But yo, I mean, I don't know if all of Gangsta NIP's career is this inventive. I really don't know. And I know he has albums coming out to this day practically. I think I saw something from 2017. So I don't know if he kept it up or whatever. I really don't. But K-Rino did. So I can't imagine that this dude's going to all of a sudden not be a great rhymer 20 years after practicing, you know? Anyway.
So yeah, I mean, for me, it wasn't bad. It was enjoyable. I just, for me, it wouldn't be like an everyday song that I would listen to. Like I would listen to it like in like October at Halloween. But that's just me. I give it a 4 on 5.
So I have very a strange relationship with horror in general. I'm not really a fan of horror. So when I thought about it, because at one point I put out a video of what I listen to the most in the year on Spotify, according to Spotify, which is just mostly a bunch of pop shit and then some of the songs that really stuck out to me. And I remember Super Old School 1994 asking, claiming he was surprised like Isham or whoever wasn't there. And I realized it's because I'm barely ever really in a mood where I want to go put on horror shit. So I very much appreciate the brilliance in this writing. Like, there is some shit that really made me have to be like, damn, that's fucking interesting. A bird's leg woke up dead and with his head in some fish grease. 10 died yesterday, 10 just died, 10 died today. Okay? Now this football's on layaway. I'm like, okay. I'm not really sure what's going on, but it's not boring, you know? You said I was weak, yeah, point blank told me. And then it just, in my opinion, it jumps the shark, but it also makes it really fucking interesting. Tied a needle to my dick that my grandmother rode me. And I'm like, what? And I really enjoyed that.
A bit of incest there.
I really enjoyed how, shocking it is. It makes Bizarre seem really boring by comparison. Bizarre the rapper, I mean. Because he'll try to say some shit like that, but knowing that this dude dropped it in 92 and is so much harder.
And he sounds like he means it. I know it's not necessarily all true, but he makes it sound like he means it.
But it's like this amazing character he's created. Honestly, if he's supposed to be this gangsta psycho from South Park and that's the role he's taking, that's his persona, damn, that is something you would expect a psycho to do. And that's what I think
this is also his first album, so he's going in hard. He's like, this is who I am. Like he's really pushing himself, I think.
It's really, to me, it's just, it's so inventive. And, even if it's maybe not the most, I'm going to be honest with you, the beat's fine. The Tisket, Tasket chorus, hook verse hook format's really cool. It's very interesting. It's grimy. It's, murderous almost. At one point, he snaps his finger, and you hear the snap, just like I kind of tried to coordinate that. And I hope I wasn't too loud. But, and then it's it's just all over, but it really is this grotesque horror scenario. All the shit he would do if he were Quentin Tarantino making a horror movie. I meant to say Rob Zombie, then I said Quentin. But I guess both would make a good horror movie. Either way, the song got a 4.35 for me. And a little bit of that is that I'm highly impressed with the writing, and I'm highly impressed with Gangsta NIP's delivery, his vocal control, his dynamic craziness to the way he rhymes. It's so impressive. The way he writes is so good. My desire to actually listen to this depends on my moody. So I'm not really
maybe around Halloween?
No. It's not really that. For me, it's not seasonal. It's sometimes I want to hear some fucking raging, kill psychotic shit.
I think it's also if you have a really terrible day and you want to listen to something really hardcore just to
or let's say I was in a mood where I wanted to go write that, or I had to put myself into that frame of mind. I would absolutely go put this on to put myself into a state of mind, and I really appreciate how good it is. It's just preferences, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway. Some people might hear what we have to say. Look at that fucking TV screen. Did you give a grade?
Yeah.
Okay, then they might then go ahead and say, get out the game.
Which game?
Well, Bonnie, they're trying to get out the game.
But which game?
Well,
Like Monopoly, Scrabble? Which game
believe
would you like
gang
me to get out?
is slanging the cane. The cocaine.
Oh, the cocaine.
All right, how do you feel about this track?
So it's basically them like or him like chanting like over and over that he's got to get out of the game, because of like all of like the drugs and everything that he's been involved with and selling them, and he finds it difficult to get a job, like a legit job because he has a criminal record, which is something that I've asked before, and I think that that's kind of interesting that he's kind of answering that for me. You know, like I feel like he was inspired by like Ice Cube or something on this one, like just like the sound of it made me think of him. And he's basically telling some like gangsta stories of like the hood and like the ridiculous violence that happens and like the drug dealing and like the violence that happens over like people owing debts, you know, over drugs or whatever else, or guns, or you know, whatever else that is illegally purchased. And like, you know, they're saying like they don't fuck around, he doesn't fuck around. They sell crack that cause you to like die in like the ghetto basically, and like they don't really have any remorse, and like they don't want to stop, like they're gonna keep doing this. It's catchy and annoying kind of all at the same time, this song. And I really liked because we have Dope E, and he's on a few of the songs on this album, and I liked his verse. I thought it was really good. It was really interesting. It was hard. It's sort of like very clearly like underground rap. But it's a good story, and it was well rapped. I liked it. I gave it a 4.25.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely again in this gritty, grimy overall sound.
Yeah.
I feel like every album Super Old School is recommending for us to do at this point has had that grimy, gritty sound, like heavy percussions. It's not flossy. It definitely wouldn't sell in today's market just due to the grittiness of it, because people are a little bit too into the pop. But man, there's some gat sounds and shit that come on Dope E's second verse.
Like across like this album, there's a lot of the same gat sounds, and it is a very like, it sounds a little bit cartoony.
Yeah, I feel like cinematic is what I would say. Like, I
Maybe.
mean, like to me, it's like they're trying to reinforce the overall message and add these extra elements. And like, I mean, it's one thing to just talk about gunshots. It's another thing to talk about gunshots and use a specific gunshot sound that works with the beat to really almost become an ad-lib in a sense. And I think it's really well done, the way that they do it. But then you just got some great lyrics, like, taking no shit while I'm slanging, gank me, they'll find your motherfucking little girl's throat hanging. I mean, that's a little bit like, these guys are letting you know
Very hardcore.
they're gonna cross the line. Most people have limits, like, you know, oh, you won't be able, I won't go for your kids. I don't remember which rapper it was, but somebody pointed out that, like, these limits are fucking stupid. You're willing to kill, but all of a sudden draw some arbitrary line at, like, killing a kid. Like, what the fuck? You in the eyes of God or whoever, you're done. You already crossed the line. So what is this weird morals? And weird morals are just strange limits that will keep you from success in certain games where you have to cross lines. So if you got to cross the line, you better be going all in. So what I'm hearing is Ganksta NIP, I believe it was Ganksta NIP that said that, is willing to go all the way fucking in without remorse, which is what you need to be in this game. So when they're framing in the verses what being in the game is like, and not in a glorified way, in like a horror movie rap kind of way, this is how they see being in the game. It only makes sense that the chorus is just this almost
Well, I think that they
desperate cry to get out of it.
Yeah, they want to get out of the game, but like they just kind of don't know how, and like they've kind of already done all these terrible things, and now it's just kind of like, what's the point? Like they might as well just stay in it.
Or like, I mean, Ganksta NIP's first verse starts with, fuck getting out, my reputation is down. If my money ain't legit, your mama's heart get ripped out. You wanna gank me, but you ain't slick. Come short one rock, oh man, find a fiend to die, bitch. You know, you fiend to die, whatever. So, you know, if you fuck him over, you're gonna die. You know, like, it's cold. He's relentlessly cold. Now, it sounds pretty graphic, but the more I read books that CEOs and shit read, the more it sounds like he's an effective fucking corporate executive, and he would do really, really well with a corporate machine behind him, because that level of ruthlessness is what backs the venture capitalist firms that make the world go round. Just throwing it out there. But it's not aimless. There's one particular person at Gangsta NIP targets in many of the songs, and we see it right over here. I ain't the one to be fucked with. 9mm hollow point capping your ass, bitch. That crooked cop. He must think that I'm soft. I might start by shooting up his motherfucking house. And I love the... Look, I can't say that I don't hate... I mean, I don't hate all police personally. But I can't deny the fact that there's systematic racism in the police force in my own city. Forget the States. I live in Canada. I live in Montreal, Quebec. And in my own neighborhood, they shot a black, I think he was 17, a black kid, almost execution style in the back of the head while he was on his knees in 2018, last summer. All I'm saying is that I could only imagine the disdain for the police officers in certain neighborhoods with certain demographic scenarios where you're absolutely gonna have cops extorting the fuck out of your situation. I mean, I know there's a lot of stories, countless stories, and hearing it in 92 and then hearing how people today still doubt shit, it's like, man, rappers been rapping about this consistently. This part of the story, no matter what genre of hip-hop, conscious, street, whatever, this part never changes. It's fucked up when you really like run data. If you're into data at all, the fact that all black rappers can basically have the same experience no matter who they are, it's pretty fucked up. I mean, how for 40 years, like, anyone wants to talk about how there's no documented evidence, well, then they don't really do metric analyses of hip-hop. Well, that's a shame, because I guess people are just... Anyway, y'all probably have bigger frustrations than me on issues like this. I'm just realizing how fucking twisted shit really gets to be sometimes.
Yep.
Mostly because dudes like Ganksta NIP, through brilliant satirical poetry, in a very extreme way. This is no different than what the fucking edgelords and shit like, really. It's edgy. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. It's just edgelord shit. Like, that's what it makes me think of. But instead of being, like, cringy...
Well, it's horrorcore. It is. I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, this is kind of what a lot of horrorcore is like. It's very, like, graphic, grimy, gruesome.
But it's cool. I mean, it's well written. I mean, it's shocking. Pretty much he writes it in a way, specifically more Gangsta NIP, where every line, you're almost just waiting to see what he's going to say next. It doesn't necessarily have to be part of a story or a narrative. It just all feels like, that's the theme. What Gangsta NIP shit can I say to this? And then it spews out of his mouth, and it's fucking dope.
Yep. Anyway,
I do like how it just ends where, on the end of NIP's verse, with 36 cops just died in South Park. Like, you know, like, that kind of shit is just strong. Like, I like how they reinforce where they're from over and over again. It's very squad-oriented. It's very about the team, but also about the reality that they're dealing with, especially police corruption, which is a thing. Anyway, I enjoyed the concept of this song a lot more. I thought it was more interesting from that perspective, but I don't know if I enjoyed the sound anymore, and I'm going to give this another 4.35.
Okay, let's check out Rough Brothers from South Park.
Yep.
So you better watch your back, ready to attack. That rhyme dope, 86.
All I have to say is K-Rino sounds really old now, having heard him in his youth rapping. No disrespect intended. I was like, is that really K-Rino? And then there was a line.
He's just a wee lad.
It's like, I mean, I'm like, okay. I mean, going through the verse, it totally makes sense. You can see the same kind of premise of rhyming that he has, and it's very wordplay driven, and it's really cool. And I'm not hating. I really enjoyed his verse. It was just more... I'm listening to the 4-piece, which came out, almost 20-something years later, and your voice will change in that period of time, is all I'm trying to say.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's really amazing to even hear that. Like, it makes me appreciate what I'm hearing of K-Rino now even more, just to see how fucking cool he is on this project, you know? Just goes out to the Gangsta G. Attest to your crew because you're whack. It's funny, right? Because he's the crazy one, you know?
Yep.
You know, let's see what happens. Handing out ass whoopings. Take one and pass him back. When I catch you, I'ma end my frustration. Give your shotgun my black asshole resuscitation. And I'm like, damn, that's pretty, like, aggressive still. Hard. It's not the same calm old man K-Rino teaching the whole world that I'm getting accustomed to. This is fucking cool to see the different side of him. Radical rhymes beat a trick like a bat. Charles Manson saw what I did and said, damn, why I ain't think of that. And then at that line, and I hadn't heard the K-Rino line, I was like, that's definitely K-Rino. And then it said K-Rino's first offense, and I'm like, okay. But with that Charles Manson line, I'm like, man, that does sound like a K-Rino bar as I've come to understand him. I'm not a hugest fan yet, but I will get through a lot of his albums. I can't promise to do all of them. He has a lot of albums. We'll review a bunch of them, I promise. Anyway, then there's a little break, and then, you know, we get Dope E on verse 2, and he's all right. He comes in, and he follows through. Point Blank is the third verse, and again, he just follows through, and it's like, it's really cool to hear the different voices, right? Because they all kind of...
crew members.
But they all have different tones in a way where the South Park Coalition collectively has almost a harmony to the way their voices blend together. And it really, because Gangsta NIP is super distinct, and I feel like each one of the guys has a super distinct way that they use their voice that, like, you knew it was fucking what's his name, Dope E in the second verse. You didn't have to look, you just knew it because you heard his voice, and it's so distinct. Then Point Blank gets introduced, he comes in. Then Gangsta NIP, he just says some interesting shit, and I believe it's him that said, to me, the most fucking noteworthy line in this song: trisexual intercourse with a pigeon.
What? What does that mean?
Like, cause a taste of blood gave me a smidgen. Tried trisexual intercourse with a motherfucking pigeon. Sorry, that's the full line. So it's trisexual because bisexual would be with your same gender, but by adding an animal element, it's now trisexual. So he fucks a pigeon, but a pigeon's also a flat-chested girl. So it's pretty creative. I thought it was a pretty creative line. I'm throwing it out there. I don't know. It's so weird. Everyone else is like rough and tough and they're all whatever. And then Gangsta NIP just fucking turns it up a whole notch. Because I kill the best. I was born in a dead fish head in my brother's chest. Don't come talking that pig shit. Because if you rip out and get your motherfucking wig split, 666, who I believe is the beat maker, was born with 10 legs. He only uses 2 because the other 8 is dead. I wouldn't stop chopping till only Troy. And then and you're just like, I like listening to him talk. I just like hearing his imagination flow. Again, I don't know if I could listen to this every day, and I appreciate like just the overall creativity and shit. Like I really, really do. And this one had that in the beat, which I felt like softened it a bit for me and made me like it more because I like the grittiness, but not as much as some other people might like the grittiness. I do like me some good, clean, melodic shit. So I thought that was really cool, the way that kept phasing in and out of the beat, adding a much more enjoyable element for it for me. And I give this a 4.5. Like, as far as posse cuts go, I think the South Park Coalition really put together a solid squad of distinction, as opposed to others where it's almost like bro shows up, bro bounces out, and you're like, I don't think he counted enough to remember his name.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is what it is. It is like a posse cut, kind of. It sounds creepy right away. For me, like that, like do sound that you were thinking of, like it made me think of like Unsolved Mysteries. So it made me think of like an even more creepy like show. Everybody knows how creepy that was. Like they're very violent and they represent like their hometown and where they're from. And then we have like K-Rino, and he's like saying that he's basically one of like the hardest guys in town. Like he's super gangster and like he knows what's up. And then Point Blank I found was like not like he wasn't necessarily exceptional. Like he wasn't my favorite. He's crazy, but like he wasn't my favorite. And like in terms of like how good or not Gangsta K is, Gangsta K, Gangsta NIP is, I'm not really sure. He just sounds like super like scary, which I suppose is like what he's going for, rather than like that. He's just kind of using his like niche, I guess. His niche market is to be like super scary, and I don't really know like how good of a rapper he is yet, just because it's just trying to.
I would like to like comment on that. Even at this point on the album, I think that they're pretty exceptionally good rappers. No. I mean, as far as just rapping goes, the flows are really on point. Like, they're really rhythmically challenging too. Like, it's a little chaotic. Like, he's not, like, he's a guy who understands the rules enough to break them. Like, they don't have to be on beat. They're like, can be a little bit crazy with it. And as much as like, I think you're right, it sounds kind of crazed out, but like,
it's only on this song like I'm talking about in particular. Like, I'm not saying that he's like a bad rapper or anything. Like, it's just that like what stands out more to me is like not necessarily his skill as a rapper, but like just how scary he sounds.
But I think that's like part of it. The fact that he can
No, of course that is part of it for sure.
The fact that he could be, because he enunciates very clearly. You know every word that he says, which isn't necessarily the simplest thing to do when you're fucking screaming and shit. He's also on beat. He's also rhyming. It's also just fucked up, like a fucked up rhythm. It's not like a regular one. And I think it's kind of pretty impressive. And I think they all are actually really technically proficient, which is really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good. Like, it's not bad. For me, like, it did feel a little bit long. And like there was like some scratching at the end, which I really just did not care for. And I usually like scratching. I like, like the mixing and everything, but it was just like not good and not for me. But it's still a good song. I gave it a 4 on 5.
All right, the next one is a tale of how Gangsta NIP is the Black Godfather.
Okay.
Point blank range exploded in his windpipe. 40 grand in 30 minutes, Jack.
Hey yo. Hey yo. That was the thing that stood out the absolute most to me, is that Ayo throughout the whole beat. I'm not the hugest fan of stuff like that, but it was okay. It worked, I think, for this song. But how do you feel about this one?
I thought it sounded cool. I liked the whole sound. I liked the beat to this one. It definitely like had a more like friendly sounding beat, I guess. And he's kind of starts off saying like he's like been involved in gangster shit for like a really long time, and he's seen a lot of stuff, and he's seen a lot of like violence, and like he's kind of saying that he's the Black Godfather, so don't fuck with him. And he talks about the FBI being after him and like all this trouble that he's in, but he makes a lot of money like every day, and he has all these people who are working under him and for him, just kind of doing like his like bidding and like the stuff that he doesn't necessarily want to do, like maybe like the drug running or whatever else, or shooting certain people, whatever. And he's on top. He's very powerful. And he says that he's come from nothing, and he's kind of like made it, and he's, he's got a lot of money right now, and he's done a lot of bad things, but at least he's got money. So it's maybe not necessarily like the best way of thinking, like, money doesn't equal happiness. I'll just say that. And he talks about like how he always has his gun on him, and just because it's a violent world, and how he's like anticipating teaching his kid or his son like the rules to like the dope game, and like sell it, being in like a gangster and everything else. And so for him, he thinks that it's like this is like the only way for like his kid to make money. Like it's only way for like a black kid to make money in the future. And I don't know, like I would think that you would want like your kid to be better off than, you were. And so you would want them to do better and like to, make different money. But like, I mean, I guess like if you're the best in the game, why wouldn't you want to pass it down to your son, I guess. So it was good. I think he's a little bit stupid, but that's just my opinion. I think his rhymes was fine. I give this a 4.25. I mean, overall, I liked it.
Well, I mean, just to comment on what you just said there, why would they wish an unrealistic false dream on their kids? Like, I mean, you got to keep in mind, this is 92.
He's also saying that he can't get like a legit job because of his criminal record. And so,
But then, like, there's the
like, wouldn't
other...
you want, like, your kid to not get a criminal record? Or, like...
I mean, for sure, but if, let's say, the choices for your child are try to go the clean route and there's a, 2% chance of success, or try to go the dirty route and there's a 10% chance of success,
Yeah.
I mean, this is really just a matter of perspective. I don't know anything about South Park in the early 90s.
Same.
For all you know, there is no opportunity. Like, there's zero, for all you know, because this is what Clinton era is about to happen. Like, this isn't really the best time to be black in America in the poorer parts of town, is all I'm trying to say. And, so I don't know if I fully agree that it's stupid, because I think the point is, in a more satirical, think about it from a South Park, Matt Stone and Trey Parker point of view, that it's so ludicrous that this is the better option. So it's not that he wants that. No, I don't think he's a serious person, and that anything that his character that sounds extreme is putting out.
Because I think that anybody that's like a Godfather, even like, in the Italian family or whatever, like, it's like you don't necessarily want your kid, being like a gangster or whatever in like an Italian gangster, but like if it's part of the family, familia.
If you really want to talk about
like,
how the Italians
thing,
operated, they did want their kids to take over because
that's what I'm saying.
The goal is always to legitimize. So it's not to stay in crime. Montreal, without going into a lot of detail, our Italians no longer have to worry about some of the more street side because they own legal construction and get city jobs and shit. So I'm pretty sure those same Italians who are running shit illegally are quite content with their kids taking over this empire they've built, even if it might not be even if there's some shadiness that still might happen.
Yeah,
like I'm saying, it's all perspective. What is the best life for your kid based on what's available to you? From Montreal, most of us, in most circumstances, even in the poorer neighborhoods, have real opportunities here. So as long as you're willing to speak French, you're good. But on this song, there's just to me, it's some really cool, more of the storytelling, narrative building side of him. Like how verse 2 starts with, because verse 1 he establishes he's the Godfather, he's the best, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. But verse 2, it really struck me. The FBI wants my head, so they watch me. But my money's still coming, man, them hoes can't stop me. Ain't down with me, you get one chance. One chance only, you snitch. Call the motherfucking ambulance. So here, it's almost like saying the FBI wants me, and the only way they're going to get me in reality is a snitch. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to be a snitch, here's your fucking warning. Well, you know what happened to the last person snitching? They found his wife's head cut off laying in the kitchen. His son was found dead with a cut up face. And then Dope B chimes in. What about his little girl? Ganksta NIP comes back with, she got smothered in his suitcase. Another hit, somebody's ganking my shit. Break out the knife, shoot till the motherfucking head split. So he's kind of painting himself out as this ruthless fucking killer that will do whatever needs to be done because he's the Black Godfather. And this is how it works. To get that reputation, to be feared, to be respected, he's willing to go that fucking hard, Mm-hmm. 80 grand a fucking day, I'm clocking 20 grand on a motherfucking bad day. That's doing pretty good. I don't know if it's legit numbers, but it's doing pretty good. I don't know. And then I really like when the verse 3 has, they say I'm destined for hell, but so what? I got money in my pockets, bitch. I don't give a fuck. You can say what you want to say, but if I pull out my gun, please don't shoot is what you're gonna say. And that's an interesting line to me because I think it does comment maybe on what you were saying a bit earlier in terms of perceptions, right? If you've already had to cross the line and you're already destined for hell because you've already had to do despicable things, but you're rich and can at least have some kind of security and pleasure in this life, well, that's maybe a perspective that you would have if you've already had to cross that line. So when somebody judges you or whatever, it's like you don't care. You don't have to listen to what they have to say because they can't understand it. Mm-hmm. You know what you do know is that when someone pulls out a fucking gun, this is their reaction to you. Yeah. So it's a matter of saying your world makes all sorts of total sense. This is the reality of my fucking world. And I think the creativity he puts in is amazing. I also like how he goes, you host steady talking that shit. You can't get the police because they on my payroll, bitch. A crazy ass dope man rolled him with Scarface, who I believe is the rapper in this case, the terrorist, and Peter Man. People say I shouldn't have said this. They'll find their family shot up in their living rooms headless. And again, I find like his willingness to bring in women and children, families, to be aggressive, it really stands out to me as ruthless. And it's almost like on a grander sense of the hip-hop debate, which is more relevant when we talk about a certain town that sounds like I could have named it, wink, wink, you know that maybe Houston isn't being taken seriously in the hip-hop game at this point. And we know how politicized hip-hop is, and cities, whatever, and it took a while for, like, maybe southern places to be taken any kind of serious. So to prove you're harder than everybody else, I guess one of the only things you can do is be more extreme and real with your lyrics than anybody else. And I think that, driven by a sense of trying to put their town on the map, you get this like overcharged, over the top shit, because you kind of have to be more crazy almost than the next squad, which I think is super fascinating. I would love to learn more about the geopolitics of early 90s hip-hop and how the different cities struggled to get clout. Anyway, this song is fucking cool. I gave it a 4.5. I love the super pulsy drum production. I love the overall feel of this song.
Okay, well, let's carry on and see just how psycho he can be.
Catch that bitch by herself and finger fuck her with a hammer. Throw your daughter in the air. Hope that bitch.
This is absolutely my favorite beat so far on the album. It just has this cool, smooth, like it's like we've left the realm of everything else we've heard, and it's a brand new style of beat being slipped into this album, a more radio-friendly beat, I would say. So it appeals to me much more than the other ones on a production front. And then he just kicks it up with the same kind of aggression and proving he's a psycho. So a lot of the same commentary that could be made about him on other songs in terms of being extreme and shit could absolutely be made here. But what do you think about this song?
I mean, it's all right. I mean, he obviously doesn't care if you don't like him. He kind of starts off and he talks about that he commits crime basically for shits and giggles, and he just does this for fun, and all of his behavior is just because he's psycho and everything else. And I have some lines here to read. I'm mentally psycho, insane with a 666, 600 dead cats, cat heads screaming in a crucifix. Yo, I'll be damned if I don't get no respect. Drunk a pint of goat's blood, then I died in a squirrel's nest. So that's really weird. And he's basically describing a lot of killing and criminal activity.
He butchers a lot of animals there.
And there's a lot of animals being killed, and 600 dead cats. Like that's probably a lot of cats. To kill at once.
600.
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
It's a pretty set number.
Yeah, yep.
You didn't like that one, did you?
No.
Bonnie's a big cat person.
Don't kill cats. So yeah, I mean, he's basically just like describing like all like the mayhem that he gets up to, and I liked the beat on this one. I thought it was good. And he just basically just goes on and on about how crazy and how hard he is. Graveside in my bed, only when I get mad, arms and legs in my closet, heads and throats in my trash bag, talking that shit, you'll get beat with some switches, blew up a convalescent center because I hate old bitches. So I'm like, well, just 'cause I thought he loved old bitches because he talks about like sleeping with older ladies, but I guess he doesn't.
Well, maybe he likes to fornicate in the old folks' home, lay some bombs, and then blow it up.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know what happened there, but he blew up an old folks' home, basically. So it's good. It's horrorcore rap. It works for like what it is. I mean, he probably shouldn't be rapping about like all these crimes and stuff that he's committing if like the FBI really is after him. Just saying. But it was good. It was entertaining. It's shocking. It does what it does. It's a 4.25.
Well, Bonnie, allow me to quote the great Ganksta NIP at you.
What?
If you don't like the way he raps, tough shit, Bonnie. Fuck you.
Wow.
Anyway.
Rude, sir.
No, but like, I don't think he's committing all these crimes. I think
No. Of course not. I don't think he's killing 600 cats.
I think it's, but just to the point, I think that he should be allowed to write this because it's
just the same as anybody writing like a horror book or a horror like movie or plot or like
only with hella weight and some fucking ridiculous imagination. Like I'm strapped with a Uzi, so get ready to die. Catch a person while he's sleeping, strike a match in his eye. Like, that's pretty brutal. He'll sneak into your house and kill your ass for fun. Check to see if you're still sleeping. Burn a hole in your tongue.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
It's not that it's weird, it's just sadistic. If you're supposed to be a psycho, right, killing you isn't enough. It's how's he going to torture you. It's what is the shocking way he can get into your mind and prove how psychotic he is. Stuff like bloody bodies in caskets, the measures are drastic, dead babies in my house suffocated by plastic. Think you can beat me? You gotta be joking, ho. Through a break in Houston, Texas, broke a window in Tokyo. Do you realize how strong this man is? He picked up a brick in Houston, Texas. Now, Texas is very large. I understand that. So he threw it so far that it left very large Texas, flew across the Atlantic Ocean. I'm assuming it went in that direction.
Yeah.
Flew over the Middle East, flew over everything, landed in fucking Tokyo.
Wait, why wouldn't he go the other way? Doesn't that make a lot more sense?
I think the Pacific Ocean might actually still be bigger because of where Texas is.
But if he's in Texas and he shoots it from there and he goes over the Pacific, it's gonna go straight to like Japan.
Yeah.
He just goes. Whoosh.
But maybe. I don't know.
I think that makes a lot more sense.
I
than
think
going over
either
the other
direction
way.
can work, okay?
Nah.
Either direction. It's
Nah,
about the
that's
other end
crazy.
of the world. Still, it's very allegorical in a sense, or it's very, like, fantastical. I mean, I would like to say that this is obviously just, like, horror. It's just meant to be like a movie. People are stupid, so nothing in life is obvious, but it's obvious to me. But I also think he primes shit really well. Like, if you think my rap isn't cool, well, fuck you. It's not for you. And that's fair. I really appreciated this song in terms of what it is. I feel like the more you go into it, the more you just get really fucking fun lines. Like mercenary plus a ninja, rifleman in a courtroom, throats on a kite, got intentions to fight. I'm like, I don't 100% know what the fuck that even means. So I get that he's a mercenary and a ninja. So he's a ninja mercenary. That part makes sense to me. But when he's in a courtroom, he's got a rifleman, but he's also a ninja. So I now picture him as a ninja with a gun in a courtroom ready to cap somebody. Throats on a kite now makes me picture he strung somebody up like by the neck and like launched a kite. But we were just in a courtroom, so it's hard for me to follow all of these guys.
Yeah, sometimes it's not quite connected.
And then what I really liked about him as well, he might kill cats and shit. He does care about the dogs because there are body bags in the street from the people he's killed. And now the dogs have something enjoyable to eat, some good meat and shit. And it disposes of the DNA evidence, making him not just a psycho, but fucking smart. All right? I'm not being sarcastic here. That's actually a brilliant thing. I mean, pigs were used by the Chinese back in the West and shit, if I'm not mistaken. According to Westwood. That's what
there
happened.
was like murders that happened, like the native people or something. It was in the 70s or the 80s, and there was a guy and he fed everybody to like the pigs, or the 90s even.
Yeah, because they eat everything. Anyway, I think the chorus is fine. It just rolls on through. It's a cool, like, to me this is like more of like, I'm more enjoying this from like the historical perspective than the replayability of it for my preferences, but I think this one blew me away. In terms of just creativity, like, I feel like people make pretentious statements like, I'm a psycho, oh, I'm crazy, I'm fucked in the head, I got visions of killing you, dog, you're gonna be dead. Okay, that's some weak-ass psycho shit. Ganksta NIP, on the other hand, is backing up the claim.
Yeah, he seems a little bit more psycho than like usual.
And I appreciate that, because if you're gonna call yourself a psycho, don't be like Tech 9 and not be psychotic. Be like Ganksta NIP and be a proper psycho. And you know why? You know why, Bonnie?
Because actions speak louder than words?
Yes.
Yet grab a bat or port from the pack. Then commence to beating your head to the motherfucker.
This song seems to appear on more than one album.
Okay.
It's definitely on this album, which came out earlier in 1992. But then, according to Genius, and this fucked me up for a second, it's also on the Geto Boys' album. It's Uncut Dope. And it makes sense because it's kind of like the Geto Boys featuring Seagram and Gangsta NIP, or, depending on how you want to look at it, Gangsta NIP featuring the Geto Boys and Seagram.
Yeah.
Either way, that is where we were at. From what I can tell, this is the one that came first, just based on album release dates.
Okay.
But I don't know if this is a Geto Boys song or if it's a Gangsta NIP song, because this has happened in recent tour music history with that twisted Kanye West Jamie Foxx song Slow Jams that came on both Kanye West's College Dropout and Twisted's Kamikaze album. So it could be just a move like that. I don't know. Y'all can let us know in the comments. People who know more than us. You're
People
the
from
best.
Houston, from H-Town.
That's what's up. Also, Houston has an excellent music scene. May I say that being a reviewer of this point, Houston has one of the more literary scenes that I don't feel gets brought up enough in the good writers portion of it. Because I feel like people just group them into a lot of the simpler sounds that come out of the South and Houston and shit. But fuck, there's a lot of good writing out there. I just want to give it that credit.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this one? I mean, obviously you love Scarface's verse, but I'll let you tell it.
I don't know. I mean, it's fine. So there's like a phone call at the beginning, and it's to Two Black Records. I can't remember who it was that's actually calling. But he's calling and like basically criticizing their choice of like who they support, I think. And like the beat is really nice to this one. I liked it. It reminded me of something else, but I couldn't put my finger on quite what it was. He kind of says that he can't wait to die, and he's...
Which he?
Yeah, he talks about...
Which he? There's lots of he's on this song. Scarface is the
I
first
didn't
he.
write it down.
Gangsta NIP is the second he.
Well, one of the he's. Is saying that if you try anything with him, that he's not afraid to kill you. Oh, I think it was maybe Scarface. It might have been.
Okay.
Willie D comes in and he spits like really fast. And then he basically is like yelling a bunch of his verse. He's quite loud. And he's really gangster. And he's really like, you know, he's here to prove it with his actions. And I guess like alluding to like the gunshots and everything else. So these are just like very long verses. And I think like Seagram is basically saying that he's doing like the, you know, like the devil's work, and like he's really like influenced by like the devil and everything else because he's so bad and he's so hard. And like, I don't know, I thought it was good. It's like a 6-minute song, so it is kind of long, but I thought like the beat was good. The raps were fine, and like they were all pretty like gangster and everything else, but it did feel a little bit dragged out and a little bit long just because it is on the longer end. So I give it a 4 on 5.
Fair enough. So let's talk about Gangsta NIP with an X versus a K. So thankfully I fact checked this, but I was convinced they were two separate people. And part of that has to do with the fact that when you click on Gangsta NIP with an X, you end up going to a wholly separate Spotify page or the wholly separate artist thing. This is something where I just didn't know, like, is he credited with an X on this song? Is that something that, like, changed along the way? Like, I just didn't know. But then I thought about it, and I realized that any albums where you put Gangsta NIP with an X on it have to be published under Gangsta NIP with an X or a Spotify, and then won't publish it. And anyone that he did with a K has to have a K, so... Unfortunately, since his cover
it was,
arts...
you know, the early 90s. They didn't know what the future rules were going to be.
Yeah, so the rules are that any text that appears on your album has to match what the album title and words are. So even shit, like, it has to be so abundantly clear. I don't know. They're really stringent with it. Like, there is no leeway. Like, having a 514, it's too much for them. So that answered my question, but I really enjoyed Scarface's verse just from the jump, man. He's faster paced than I think he was when we listened to the diary. Roll him up and I smoke him. Tried to break, so I broke him. Busted his ass in the head. That's when I grabbed him and choked him. I'm on a revenge, a psychopath, the master of wrecking shit. I'm like, damn, he works really, really fucking good with what Ganksta NIP is doing, that psychotic gangsta crazy shit. I really am enjoying it. He goes on the whole way through. His voice is magnificent. Scarface is probably one of the best voices I've heard in hip-hop in terms of he could say anything and it sounds good just because he's fucking got such a cool way of talking through his rhyming. I don't know. He just pulls it on through, and I found this verse was pretty enjoyable. Me get caught in a cross, that's absurd. Your head is a tennis ball, and I'm about to serve. You know, he's pretty fucking crazy with it. Then you get this really airy, almost pop and nice chorus. Actions speak louder than words. And I'm like, that was weird. I don't know if I like how the chorus fits this song. I feel like it's almost happy compared to everything else.
Yeah.
Ganksta NIP comes in and yells and does his shit, and it's proper. I really enjoy it. I love the theatrics on shit like Step in My Face. I'll commence the hidden pop, pop, pop. The 9 milli ain't bullshitting. The fact that they actually use gunshots and shit to emphasize it, keep the space in the rhyming just to give it the chance to let it breathe there. It's pretty fucking good. It's pretty fucking enjoyable. Something else to point out is that even in the midst of this, there's a matter of anti-police brutality, like protesty shit with I kill for a quarter, lyrics deep as the water. To justify that, peace to Rodney King, I got the ass in the slaughter. So he is crazy because he's killing the cops that beat down Rodney King.
Yeah.
To show that
It's only fair, right?
But it's not just shallow shit. There's a reason for the rage. And I think it's something that a lot of people will overlook. And it's very sad. Willie D, I shock him and clop him. I shock him and clock him and pop him and drop him and flop him and then I mop him. Woof!
It's crazy.
Every single time. It's so fun. And they motherfucking tracks is where I stop them. Unless you down with a bloody nose, save the cussing and fussing and pointing fingers for them hoes. It's just good, man. So unless you got a bloody nose because somebody socked you on, shut your fucking mouth or you're going to get socked in the face.
Yep.
Talk is cheap. I catch your ass on the sneak and hit you everywhere but under your feet. So you're going to get beat the fuck down. Goes on through. I do this more shots because actions speak louder than words. Has to be the strongest end of a verse on the entire song. Then the chorus comes in again. Seagram's fine. He's totally my least favorite of them all, but he does have a sort of almost as cool end part with action spiziks lazouder the thizan wizards. I like that. It was enjoyable. I gave this song a 4.35. That hook and the beat are not my favorite, but the verses are some of the best on the album in my opinion. So there's that juxtaposition. I don't know. Did you give your grade? I can't remember.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about some pimping with the Ganksta Mac?
Okay.
Alright. So yes, the cat decided to break into the room. So since she broke in, she's going to be on camera for a second. She wanted to interrupt us. She has to come be part of it. I'm going to put her down now. She does not like me as much as she likes her. So this song, well, it's about pimping.
Yep.
It's basically take what he's done on all of the other songs stylistically, which is cool, but now he's a pimp. So Gangsta Mac, add more bank to the stack, girls step out broke, but give me 3 or 4, started at 18, making a kill out of 25 grand, I might kick her a $1 bill. So the girls is broke. They go out, they fornicate with the dudes for money, and after he gets about 25 grand, she can now have $1. So he's that kind of pimp. He's the kind of pimp.
All for him and none for her.
That will smack a girl around and make sure she knows who's boss and shit. And he tells us this. I'm not even fucking exaggerating. I don't know. This one was fine. The chorus was keep counting the stacks, keep counting the stacks, keep counting the stacks, because I'm a gangster. I didn't really like it that much. It was a bit of a snooze fest on the chorus. The beat's alright. Lyrically, it's like, I feel like he was not trying as hard. Like, I feel like he went, maybe it's because he was going slower, like he was trying to be more of a pimp on this one. And I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But there's some interesting shit. Like, I feel like My bitches play every corner chilling. I get banged from all of them because they pussy makes a killing. Willing to sacrifice for your life. I'm nice to all my hoes. Ask my motherfucking wife. I get paid when she get paid. And then Dopey said, what if I take the pussy? Motherfucker get sprayed. Gangsta NIP. I'm never alone. Call your girl from the job. She better answer the phone. It's basically just that kind of shit until it's done. That's just it. And then you're over. And I mean, on the one hand, I believe he makes a great psycho. Somehow him being a psycho pimp is just harder for me to get behind. I don't know.
Yeah, just pick one profession.
Like, he doesn't come off like Too Short does when he's talking about pimping. He just kind of whatever. And then in the middle, something told me not to throw that hand grenade at that cop. Come quick, your ass better run. I'm having a sale on bitches 2 for the price of 1. See, I'm a pimp, hoes better please me. Always remember that pimping ain't easy.
Yep.
You know what it is? This is the one that felt the most generic of everything I've heard on the album.
Yeah,
like, I feel like
it was like your basic horror. Like, it was, I don't know, and it wasn't, I don't know.
Maybe he's a pioneer of pimping lyrics or some shit like that, but whereas with all of the crazy psycho shit, I'm really buying it. This one was just a little bit harder to swallow. I don't think it was bad. I just, like, it literally ends with a yo mama joke. It's that level of what it is. I don't know. He pimps little sisters who are in high school. He's not, I don't know. It just felt weird. 4.1. I'm not judging him. I understand the music he's making. This is all shit that probably happens, and he's commentating on it.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily supposed to be comfortable. I just think his creativity was a little less interesting on this subject than it's been on previous subjects he's had on the album. So 4.1.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is the Ganksta Mac, and it has like the K in it. It sounds funky. He obviously, he talks about having all these ladies, and he talks about also having like bloody cut up body parts in like his garbage bags all around. And he brags that he can get any girl that he wants, and like if any guy gets in his way, that he'll kill him. And doesn't like answer to like any woman or any lady, and will slap them if they like talk back, or he'll hurt them. And he's like a pimp and whatever else. And women are just there to like please him, and he'll even like have sex with your mom. And he just kind of goes on to like obviously do these kind of extreme type things, and he doesn't even care. He makes so much money, pimping and selling drugs, and I don't know. I mean, it's all right. It's not a bad song. I just don't think that like I understand it was 1992 or whatever, 1991 when he wrote this, but I really don't feel like a lot of the sexism would pass today. Like if somebody made a song like this, I feel like they would get like a lot more like shit I guess like on them before, if they made something like this nowadays, rather than us just kind of looking at it as
I really the only line I think he'd really get clipped on is pimping teenage girls. That would get him clipped. The rest of it I could see passing.
I mean, it passes, but it is kind of like it's iffy. But all like the really feminists would probably get upset with this.
Yeah, but anyways, they get mad at everything.
Yeah, I guess. Anyways, I give it a 4 on 5. It was okay.
That's fine. It sounds like Bonnie's been smoking some amp.
Oh no.
And blood in his motherfucking back. I wasn't through. He said I was soft. Flashback.
I know I've been particularly verbose amongst these songs, and we've been really taking our time going through it. But that's because Smokin Amp is the last song that has the lyrics available on the internet, allowing us to really go in deep on it. Mm-hmm. I'm not to say that you can't, but you hear a song 6-7 times, and as much as you want to remember it at a line-by-line level when you're talking about it hours later during a review, you just can't. So that's why the lyrics online make our reviews better. Amp, as I could tell, is weed laced with X. It said narcotic. It didn't tell me specifically what.
Okay, I just thought it was amphetamines.
It sounds like PCP based on what the fuck they're rhyming about, but it could also be some kind of amphetamine. it just to me sounds like they smoke a bunch of PCP and then go on a fucking psychotic ride.
Because they get amped up, right? You know, they get like all energized.
Yeah, and so it starts off with Nip, yo 666, pass the motherfucking amp, and then everybody want to get fucked up too. He's like, hold up, man, I ain't even had hit the motherfucker good yet. Anyway, then they get high. So then the story kicks off. Starts off in my house smoking amp, feeding for blood like a motherfucking vamp. That's cool. So he gets high, and then it makes him violent. Wants to go fucking fight and shit, you know? Mm-hmm. Kept hitting, and now my brain's on fire. Felt like stuffing motherfuckers in a dryer. So I take my last puff. Then I shot my motherfucking next door neighbor for good luck. So literally, it just sounds like he's cranked out on some shit. He's done. Impulse. Oh, you're there. It kind of reminds me of the song "Night of the Chainsaw" from the Insane Clown Posse, which came out kind of recently, so definitely not before this, but it just kind of reminded me of the impact, because that in that song they just get fucked up on drugs, kills a bunch of people thinking they're zombies, and it's just like regular civilians when he sobers up on the news and shit.
Yep.
He runs on through, and it's just like completely like just every line is just like, oh, I turned over there and I saw something. Like, I wasn't through. He said I was soft. Flashbacks from walking town, cut his motherfucking legs off, jumped in the ride. Then I fired up another square. So he's getting higher. Slowed down token, had me pulling out my fucking hair. Stopped at the store to get a 40. Something in there said it's time to get naughty. I got pissed and took me a beer. Down at the cashier. So it's like, that's the song. He just goes crazy, and he goes on this rampage, and he kills a cop or two, and he, you know, runs on, and it's typical shit. And then we get to the end. And I kept hitting, and I kept getting mean. Shot every motherfucker I saw under 13. There got the cops. It's time for death. Loaded up the 12 gauge, and I killed myself. Fuck. And then you kind of hear the little outro bit as they're talking about how the amp is making him feel like it's so crazy he's got to kill himself. And then it's almost like, well, you know what? I just am. And he literally shoots himself, and that's how the fucking song ends. Mm-hmm. I thought this was pretty creative. Definitely more interesting than him pimping. I think he does. It's just I think he does violence and gore like a slasher
much better
film.
Than the pimping thing.
Like, just a lot more interesting to me. Like, it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe he was a pimp. Maybe he was a good pimp.
Stick with what you're good at.
Maybe he was. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that he's much better with the violence from my perception. I thought this was really creative, but fundamentally just it was a 4.2 level of good. So I think his creativity and his rap skills are on point. I think the production is, again, in this gritty era of not fully my favorite. And I think the song really works for what he's trying to do. But just them getting high in the little skits, I don't know, it wasn't my favorite. Overall, I like the concept of what it is and like reading the lyrics on paper more than the actual experience of maybe listening to it, but admire the talent and creativity in it. So that's why I give it a 4.2.
Okay. So yeah, kind of like you said, they're smoking amp at the beginning, and they're getting like all like energized and like ready for like some like attack that they're about to do. And he's basically like running around town, shooting whoever he wants, destroying everyone, doesn't care. You know, clearly he has some anger management issues. And he's just like killing everyone, and then like at the end, like the cops are after him, and he doesn't want the cops to get him, so he kills himself. And because he expresses this, people are kind of concerned at the end. It seems like there's like kind of like the skit, and people are reacting to him like killing himself, and they're like, whoa. Which I appreciate, but then I think he just gets annoyed with them and he kills them all too. So I think that, I don't know, I like this one. It seemed a little bit like realistic, like, you know, this is something that could happen. This is kind of, you know, you would watch like a movie about this kind of thing. Like, this makes me think of like Basketball Diaries or something like that, where, you know, the kids were getting like all hyped up and then causing some shit, like just because. So it seemed realistic in that sense, and it was an interesting story. So I give this a 4.25.
That's fair. The next one, again, the lyrics are gone, and that's just fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
I go with you if you lick my 5-year-old brother nuts when I to eat with a big.
This one starts off showing a guy who has good sex. So he stretches open the booty hole, because that's what he needs, and he's pounding that shit. And he's, you know what? If he wants to say he has some nasty sex going on, I fucking believe Gangsta NIP. Most guys sound like they have boring sex. Gangsta NIP sounds like he has interesting sex. Anyway, so he's smashing that ass and he jizzes, and then immediately after telling her how much he loves her and how great is he's coming, he's like, yeah, get the fuck out my car. And that's how the song starts. Fucks it in. He's, I don't care if you're naked or whatever. What? I was lying. Fuck you. You know? So he starts off with that coming shit. Then he ends up like, it's just in the vein of what we've come to see from Gangsta NIP. It's this time the subject is how disgusting from a sex point of view can I be?
Yeah.
As an example, he fucking somebody undercover on the bus, which just sounds awesome. Like, I wish you could easily get away with fucking on the bus. Just saying. While two old ladies in his line of vision are diddling each other. By diddling, that's what I'm using, not his language. But they're fingering or pleasuring each other. So he's fucking on the bus while two grannies are getting each other on, you know?
I feel like it's just such a crazy bus ride.
He also proceeds to, at some point, nut into a cup to replace a vanilla milkshake because it's white and creamy. And the girl will enjoy it with it. It's got some protein, so it might even have more health value than actually a vanilla shake. So it's very courteous and kind of him to care about her health like that.
I support. Ever so kind.
I support this level of protein shake, is what I'm trying to say.
No.
Another fun one is, I don't give a fuck if you 88. I don't fuck the 93-year-olds. Respect, my man. Too many. After watching Grace and Frankie, it just showed me that maybe 70-year-old women are worth fucking. I'm not saying I want to, but it makes me feel like when I'm old, the sex will still be good. So, man, if the 88-year-old gave you dome, no judging. Do your thing. That's all good. I'm open-minded like that. But then he said this. Any chick from 14 and up, if your pussy can handle me, I'm fucking you. So I got real curious and I Googled the statutory laws. Because here's the thing. In Quebec, in 92, that was legal. He could fuck a 14-year-old and it's all good in the hood. Mm-hmm. Celine Dion is a good example of an older dude doing that. So where I come from, it's not that disgusting. I mean, maybe it is. That's not what I'm trying to imply.
I think it also depends on the age range. Like a 14-year-old and a 14-year-old, that's one thing. But
the age of consent in Quebec at that time was a 14-year-old could fuck a 60-year-old man and it's legal. There was no real like conditions. They revamped that law in June or July of 2006. So that means I was already 18 at that point where they changed this law. Half my life, 14-year-olds could fuck old men and it was all good. But in Houston, it is disgusting, I guess, because the law was 17 currently, and I believe it was 16 at the time, but maybe 17. Okay. However, they have a no, grace period law. So, apparently it's possible for two 16-year-olds to sue each other for statutory rape.
Oh, weird.
And if you're 17 and fuck a 16-year-old, it's real bad if they get caught. That sounds fucking weird. Canada has some grace period shit. We currently, it's a 16. So a 16-year-old girl can fuck a 40-year-old man as long as the 40-year-old man has no power over her. And that's the current frame of rules, and then some other conditions for even younger ages. This is all out there. I do not know why people are not aware of age of consent laws. Anyway, so he's going to do that. That was pretty graphic. I did enjoy when he said later on the song, she sucked my dick while being eaten by roaches and rats, met a freak who wouldn't fuck because she said she wouldn't something, should have seen what she did to the pit bull. I'm like, fuck, eh? That's a thing. That's a real thing. Don't Google it because you'll find it and it's a real fucking thing. And I'm not even talking to porn. There's chicks on YouTube just talking about it and it's a thing. It's fucking weird. I don't care what you want to do to another human. Somehow when you bring animals into it, it just really bothers me at that point. I'm pretty okay with human on human shit. I'm not
consensual human on human shit.
And I'm not really into old dudes fucking 14-year-olds either, so yeah, I'm not trying to condone that kind of shit either. But man, it was really when he said the pit bull thing that I felt it. That's when he got me with disgust. I also liked when he's, and this is not an exact quote, but fucking you on your period, won't let that shit go to waste, scooped it up in his hand and rubbed it on her face. I enjoyed that line. I could see how if I ever tried that, it might end my sex life, so I won't ever try that. But yeah, it was really bold. So it was creative. It was definitely interesting. If its goal was to disgust me, he managed to pull it off a couple of times. 4.25.
Okay. So he's having loud sex with a girl, and we're just kind of like hearing him and not hearing her at all. So like has sex with ladies, and then he's
fucking her ass.
Yeah. That's why
opens the booty hole.
Yes. We know what it is. And so he has like sex with ladies, and he makes them pay him and give him like, like food or goods or whatever he wants. It's basically, pimp moves right there. Even filling like the gas to his car. Like I think that's just like interesting that he's just like taking advantage of them. And he's saying that he'll sleep with anybody, even like 93-year-old, women. And he talks about having sex with pregnant women and like how he has like a girlfriend and she's a freak and she's nasty. And he talks about getting his ass eaten, which is probably the very first time I've ever heard any rapper talk about having that done. I've heard about like female rappers having that done, but I've never heard a guy like talk about openly getting his ass eaten. So I mean that's okay. So he's a freak and will sleep with girls like on their period and like I said, like wipe it on their face. He definitely plays with like all these like taboo fetishes, sex fetishes. But like, and I do think some of them are like a bit like crossing the line, like, he's taking advantage of women, or he's doing something that isn't necessarily like legally okay or whatever. But I think that it's nice that he's talking openly about these kinds of things, and so props to him for that. So I gave this a 4 out of 5. It was interesting, and it does what it's supposed to do.
The next one is a place I'd very much like to go. Back when I used to play SimCity, I would often name my little town H-Town. So let's talk again a little bit about the context for how a song like H-Town. I can't get enough of H-Town. It's so fucking cool. I mean, obviously at this point in time, Houston might not be being taken very seriously in the global hip-hop world, or at least the national hip-hop conversation. And you have him kind of being hard, and this beat is very rhythmic. It's got some sparse, interesting highs that kind of lace through it. They kind of offset that a bit, but it's really about him being hard-hitting, And his whole point is that Houston is legit. I don't know that I wrote down a whole lot of lines on this one because it was mostly just the same level of savagery that we've been getting. But one of my favorite lyrics on the entire album is, in 4 words, I'm gonna rate you. I hate you. I kind of bleeped out a word there for the 4th one, but that was one of my favorite lines on the album because it's just that level of brevity is brilliant, right? It sounds like it's so simple but well done that nobody but him could have dropped it the way that. Like if I had said that line, I don't think it would have worked. I mean, let's say we said person instead or whatever. I couldn't do it like that, but that's some dope-ass shit right there. And then the way it just ends, repeating H-Town over and over again, so that at the end of the day, you remember what you're supposed to take away from this song. H-Town ain't nothing to fuck with. And I think he really accomplishes that goal really, really well. This sounds as savage as anybody. This could have come from anywhere. But the fact that it comes from H-Town shows that Houston is a contender. And I really appreciate seeing this effort to put his city on the map and to try to make shit happen with it. So I enjoyed this one. I gave it another 4.25.
Yeah. So this one, I mean, yeah, he's obviously talking about Houston here. He's from Texas. And if you come to his town, you better not forget your gun because he's going to kill you. He's going to shoot you if you try anything with him or any of his crew. So don't talk shit to him. He's giving you this warning right now. He's representing, and it's kind of funny, like when he comes in and it says like saying that from like the East Coast and like the West Coast are dope and everywhere else is dope, but he's also representing. And he says very clearly that Houston isn't just a cowboy town, okay? And if you and he'll shoot you if you come up to him saying that. Like he's not a cowboy, okay? He's not a cowboy. I think that's kind of what he's saying. I thought it was funny. So he's putting like Houston on the map. And he's hard and he's serious about it, and he's not a cowboy. So I very much appreciate when somebody has like love for their hometown and like they're representing, and like especially when it's like a little bit different. It's not necessarily always like the same places we're hearing about. So Houston does. We don't have like. I mean, there's not a lot of rappers from there that we've covered, but it's mostly like New York and Detroit and.
Wasn't Zero from there?
Yeah, I mean there
Was
are
it K-Rino from there?
Yes, they are. But I think it's interesting that they're kind of like representing like their town, and like they're saying like we're good too. So anyways, that's all. I gave it a 4 on 5. I liked it. It was okay.
All right. Well, the next one, things get a little bit amped up, you could say, as he goes on a slaughter.
Goddamn motherfucker, how I'm tired of this shit. 357 point blank range.
Is it just me, or is this the actual soundtrack for what a slaughter psycho situation? Like that is slaughter music. It just works really fucking well. And I like the fact that he just starts it off dedicating this to the corrupt cops he's going after. And it's worth pointing out that this is not really anti-police. It's anti-crooked police.
Yeah.
And I bet most people who heard this back in the day that were not really understanding of the situation ignore that detail. Just hated it. Anti-cop anthem, blah. I don't know. I'm making shit up. I'm just assuming that's what happened. But it's funny, because that to me is really the most standout point, is that it's not a vendetta against every police officer. In fact, it almost feels like he has respect for proper police officers. I don't know, maybe. But it's the corrupt ones, the ones that are fucking up his day deliberately, that are a problem. So basically it's the same kind of song in terms of what Ganksta NIP does, but I love it that he's able to keep coming up with new ways to be NIP, and this time it's slaughtering, for the most part, police officers, and this is almost like an anti-police brutality anthem, but from the point of a black person raging back. Like, you guys fucked up my crew, you put my people in jail, you're harassing us like this.
Yep.
Fuck that shit, I'm coming for you. And I really like some lines, like there's one where it's something along the lines of, he sticks his gun inside your pussy and bangs it while inside, and I was like, that's so fucking clever. He's pretty psycho. He's gonna fuck you with a gun and then shoot you. But I really just enjoy the way it flows into it. I wish I had the lyrics in front of me so I could paint the context better. But another one that was really fucking dope is cops getting fired, and then he's about to count down. So 5, 4. I lied. He doesn't finish it. He doesn't finish his countdown. He lied. He just shoots you. And I like the idea that if you stop him, his boy is going to carry the cause. So it's like, you can't just kill him and end this. This slaughter is coming because it's almost like you persecuted enough people in the community that this is more of like a martyr-like situation. This is more like everyone is behind this. You can't just keep abusing us and expect people not to come back, is kind of what I took about to that. And then there's some I think it's a sample from Fuck the Police. I'm not sure. It's definitely one.
I mean, that makes sense.
Either way, the sample that keeps coming out, I don't remember. It sounded Ice Cube-y to me. I should know it. I know it, but I can't place it right now. And then I like the fact that he's dedicated to Rodney King and specific people in his community that have been killed by cops. And then when I hear that shit, I think about the fact that not only did we shoot a kid in NDG is my neighborhood in Montreal. And then we don't even have to talk about where most of the Haitian immigrants are congregated in what we call Montreal North. There's a lot of bad shit that happens there that people don't want to talk about, because Montreal's in Canada, and Canada's wonderful, right? Anyway, some bad shit happened. Really a couple.
There's bad stuff that happens.
No, but a couple of months ago, a kid got arrested. No bullshit, for rapping profanity on the bus. the black kid got arrested. Of course, 6 cop cars and shit. Doesn't happen to white people, but I mean, it might, but it doesn't ever seem to happen in Montreal to white people. You don't see the kid getting arrested for rapping on the bus, but you do see the Metro cops tackling people and shit. I don't know. You see it, we film it, nothing changes. That's just kind of what it is. I did like the line where he's like, born on a sewing machine and died in a wheelchair. I don't know what the fuck that means, but I really liked it. I give this song 4.75. I mean, take that passion and rage that Gangsta NIP has been doing and point it at a target that aligns with my politics, and damn, we talking some fire.
All right. So, I mean, yeah, it is what it is. So introduction saying that, like, you know, that Gangsta NIP is psycho and wondering who will stop this crazy man, like he's out of control. And I think it's like in reference to like how gangster he is, but also how crazy his raps are, I think a little bit as well. And this one is like a really intense song. It's pretty good. He's got some really devilish lyrics. He's creative in like the dark sense and like what he uses and like how he like makes you feel, and like he kind of says everybody better be aware, and he's Islamic, and you know, which is in his name, right? And he talks about Allah, which, you know, also kind of makes sense because in a few of his songs on this album he talks about like being a terrorist, and like there still were terrorist acts that were taking place, you know, by Muslims in like the 90s. So like I think that might be a reference to what was going on then. And he dedicates us to like this song basically to the people that were shot by cops, and then criticize how the police are supposed to protect them and not supposed to kill them, and how they don't feel secure. And I think that that's sadly still true today, like that there's a lot of issues and people have a lot of distrust for police because a lot of police kill without thinking necessarily, or they're stressed out or whatever else, and they just do some irrational, terrible things. So I think that that's kind of something that's still going on. So I think it is very good. I thought it was like very hard and very like crazy, and like he says some crazy things, but it did feel a little bit long. It's not the longest song. It's only 4 minutes, 19 seconds. But it was very good, and like it has a good message. So I gave it a 4.25 on 5.
All right. Well, the next one, it could be by Ozzy Osbourne, but it's not. It's by Gangsta NIP. Let's get paranoid, everyone.
Okay.
You in ammonia, yeah. Till your blood turns pink. Another body.
I like the guitars and the beat. That's cool. Also, I looked it up, and the guy who got shot in NDG was 23. Just so I was saying kid, he was 23, just so you guys know. Anyway, this was pretty cool. There's some interesting lines on it. Otherwise, it's the same kind of shit. At this point, I don't know that there's a lot I can add to what Gangsta NIP's style is. Mm-hmm. But when he said my album, you can't understand it. Side 1, gangsta shit. Side 2 would blow up the planet. Rick Rubin, fuck you from your niece to your nephew. Okay, so the first half of that, and these lines are right in a row. It sounds weird, but they are. So the first part makes sense to me because even a younger me would have been like, what the fuck is this nonsense? And I wouldn't have really understood what he was doing. Now that I understand, let's say, the circumstances of the ghetto in America a lot better, well, I understand what he's doing. So I do get it. And I get the whole point of what his album's trying to be. And I like how he's kind of showing that there's more than one point to who he is, you know? But then what's his beef with Rick Rubin? What did Rick Rubin do? I don't even know. Why does he hate Rick Rubin? Can somebody please explain it to me? That's what you guys in the comments are amazing at. I'm really hoping somebody can.
Well, it must have been something. You probably criticized him for something or another.
I just would love to know what Rick Rubin did to these little H-Town guys. That's all I want to know. Vanilla Ice is a waste. He'll be a dead white bitch with a knife in his face is another one. And I feel like the whole point of his song is to let you know that the Houston squad and Gangsta NIP are so strong, so important, so relevant that they will make other MCs in other cities fucking paranoid. As you can tell by letting you know Houston is hard, Gangsta NIP and 666 got you motherfuckers paranoid. Each of the verses kind of ends with something like that. I mean, overall, this song's fine. It really it lands at another 4.25 to me. Solid writing. He keeps it going in the same kind of way. but it does feel a little more focused. Like we've come along in the album, and he's trying to like, instead of just being completely outrageous, he's trying to like rein it in and let you know that this shit's serious to him. So the last like couple of songs, if you'll notice, are less psychotic and more pointed. So you have H-Town, which is like, yo, Houston fucking matters. Slaughter, the cops are fucking corrupt. Paranoid, Houston fucking matters. You know, like it's a bit of a tone shift from some of the earlier shit. So first he entertained you, and now he's dropping in some knowledge at the end of the project, which I thought was an interesting way to frame shit. Because bringing up Rick Rubin and Vanilla Ice is political. It's talking about shit that matters. In a sense, pop culture's exploitation of black people might be what he's talking about. I mean, Rick Rubin is kind of white. I don't really know. Anyway, 4.25.
All right. I mean, for me, like, this one was more of, like, the same thing again. Sort of, like, him talking about killing and violence and everything else. And, like, you know, this is kind of, like, the life in Houston. And I feel like we have heard about this on, like, a few of his songs. And it was kind of... It's sort of the same thing, and like I don't really know much about Houston in the 90s. It's like specifically or any time really. So it's hard for me to like compare what he's talking about exactly, but like obviously like it paints a picture. He's hard. I don't know. I feel like I was a little bit bored at this point. It was just kind of like the same sort of stuff over and over again. It was still good, but it just didn't like have me at the same level. I gave it a 3.75.
All right, that's super cool. So why don't we talk about where Ganksta NIP becomes basically the most human we're going to see on this album.
Yep.
It's a damned shame.
Eggs pump to the head, in goes the lead on the news. They're
I lied. I found the lyrics to this song on the internet just now. So yay, we have lyrics for this one. Bonnie, why don't you take it?
Okay, so this one has like a funky beat. And I think that he's clearly like inspired by like 70s kind of like vibe a little bit, because he has used like this kind of funky sound like on a couple of his songs on this album. So he goes into describing that life is terrible and all of this violence needs to stop. The drugs and violence, it's too much. People keep getting killed, and it's constantly black people killing black people. And he's like, this is ridiculous. This is enough. And like nobody's coming forward to say like who killed anybody, because witnesses are too scared to speak up because of retaliation. Somebody else is going to get killed, and it's just going to like fuel the fire. It's just going to be like an ongoing situation. And he's just saying like this is like unnecessary deaths that keep happening. And he talks about specifically when he was like hanging out with a couple of his like very good friends, and because one person had a disagreement with the other friend, he ends up getting shot. And so now, you know, and then like he runs away and the cops catch him. So now he's kind of like, okay, so now one of you is dead and one of you is in jail. Was it really worth it? Like, because you had like a disagreement over something? Like, this is so stupid. So I think that he's just kind of like fed up with like the situation and like the ridiculous and unnecessary killings. And cops are supposed to help, but they only cause more of a mess for black people in a lot of the times, and like the situations that they're in, and it just doesn't seem like they can win one way or the other. And even like white people at the end, he says, say it's a damn shame. Like, you know, like it really is like a damn shame. Like it is just like this terrible situation that they're in, and it's kind of like they kind of feel bad. Like the white people kind of feel bad, but they're not really doing anything to make a change and do anything to help them. So I thought that this was like very good. It's like an honest view like of life and like the way people live, and like the foolish like kind of macho decisions that, you know, guys tend to make, and in like sort of stupid situations, and that it's not really worth it and it needs to stop. And I thought it was a really good message, and for me this was like the best album on this best song on the album. I thought it was really good. It was really creative. It was really heartfelt, and it was really like honest, and felt like he wanted to make a difference in like the world, like which is just very different from all of the other stuff that we've heard. But still, I don't know. It was still pretty important. I give this a 4.75. I thought it was very good.
All right. So in the first verse, it kind of paints out the violence in the hood. Like, dope walls in Houston's are getting roughed. That's the third dope house the dope fiend shot up. And meanwhile, dopies ad-libbing like, damn, man. Brothers killing other brothers for a funky dime. Kills his own mother. Straight up madness. 6 dead bodies results in sadness. And, you know, what Bonnie was saying, there's no witnesses. Nobody can figure it out. So the problem just kind of perpetuates. But then... you know, so much blood spill it. If you shoot, you live. If you don't, you get killed. And they say black people's to blame. And then the background voice is like, wait, what? Man, that's a damn shame. And I think what they're trying to say there is you have this environment. And meanwhile, you have the media and the government almost saying, well, it's your own fault for getting involved in this shit. While completely ignoring the circumstances that lead up to this shit. And the fact that they blame black people exclusively for these problems is what I see as what they're commenting is a damn shame in the first verse. In the second verse, yeah, it's pretty straight up. Buddies kill each other over a simple disagreement, or 2 lives are ruined over, and it's just kind of sad, and that's a damn shame. But then the third verse, man, police brutality operates undercover. Instead of a ticket, they beat on a brother, and when they're trying to get away from the brutal fest, they say resisting arrest. Now, how in the hell they gonna let that pass? Cops supposed to help, not whoop a brother's ass. Going insane is what I order, but then I turn my tape on Slaughter. That's his song, get it? Yeah, I'm listening to the things they say and get that gun blast. Now, what's up with that fool? I'm tired of his bull. I'm ready to pull, blast and blast, guns blast till the graveyard's full. And it's really just like mad at the cops for how they treat people and shit. And then in response to him listening to his own song about killing cops, being inspired to go kill cops, he goes and kills a bunch of cops. And then when it's done, let those fucking dumbass white people show up and be like, well, that's a damn shame that it happened. Because that is how they respond to shit. 2019, fucking cop could kill like 18 black kids today. We'd wake up and go, it's a damn shame. Just go to fucking work or whatever. And that's maybe part of the problem. Maybe it's just how people cope with shit. I don't have answers, but that's the reality. And then it just kind of ends on like this rest in peace to the various people, you know, and it's just like a fuck police brutality situation. And knowing that it happens in my own town and that we're team, it only really lets me wonder how bad it can be in a place where there's violence like Chicago or other cities that are fucking up there, you know. I give this song a 4.5 on 5. I think it's the song that justifies the album from a politics point of view.
Yeah.
This is the first and only song where he drops the premise of being crazy. It's not about that. It's about really dropping the charade and saying this is stuff that actually happens. You might think it's all whatever. And if he didn't have this song, he'd just be perceived as some psycho guy. But by making this song, you realize that this is a bigger art piece of expression, of satire almost.
That he's just hurting and he's expressing himself and it like in his words and like this song and that like, and he's kind of showing like all this other stuff. It's coming from something. And I think that it is like, you know, it's just this constant like ridiculousness of killing like that happens around him.
And so, yeah, he ends on this song. And as far as like a social politics point of view, this might be one of the most essential album closers I've seen that make an album work, because you hear this song and then you stop and you're left to think with something very serious. You're not left to think with the psycho, I'm gonna fuck 14-year-old shit. No, you're here with my environment's real. This is all stuff that's happening. And as much as you might think what you want, I'm just trying to tell you my story, you know? And like I said, as the album went on, it seemed to get more and more serious to end on like the most serious song on the project. And I think it's a beautiful way to end this album.
Yep.
As far as the album as a whole goes, I give it a 4.364. I could see how it's a pretty seminal album in terms of maybe horrorcore, or maybe I don't actually know its relevance or its impact. I really don't. I don't know if I'm going to call this a classic. I think this was an enjoyable experience that brought in my historical understanding of hip-hop. And for that, I'm really grateful to have listened to it. There are a few songs on this that are really like stand out to me, but for the most part, it's a consistent barrage of over-the-top but well-written and really creative savagery. Like, yep. It's really well done. It comments on multiple issues, and I admire his ability to stick to a topic. Like, if this song is about being disgusting to women, that's what the song is going to be till the end. And so he's able to do this again and again, and he's able to more or less hit multiple kinds of beats and kind of make a really well-rounded, but more importantly, distinct sound. Like nobody else sounds like him. And I think the fact that he was able to pull that off is super impressive and shit. But still, I give the album like a 3.64?
3.5 or something, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I gave it a 4.05 on 5, so it's an 81%. So it is technically squeaking by. Like, if we go, I always say, anything over 4 is technically a classic.
I don't say that anymore.
But, I mean, so it does kind of squeak by, and, like, there are some interesting songs, and I think that it is very creative. And like I said, I suppose it's something similar to, like, Stephen King writing a book, or if somebody was writing whatever, or, writing, or like painting a picture, or, it's just sort of like his outlet for like getting out his emotions and everything else. And I think you have to understand that that's what it is, that he's not actually doing all of the crazy things that he's talking about in his songs. So yeah, I think that he does like something positive as he contributes to horrorcore. I don't know. It's not something that I listen to all the time. It's good in October, I would say.
Fair enough. So thank y'all for watching. That's the end of our review. We have now done all the things we must do to set to this conclusion point. Thank you for being here. Like, it really means the world that you guys are watching it.
You follow us on Twitter.
And all of that stuff, yeah. But more importantly, feel free to leave us a comment. We'll have a conversation. Like, for real, if you guys comment, I'll answer you. And if you answer, I'll answer again. And if you'll check, it's mostly you who's going to stop answering, not me, because it's in my best interest to always keep answering y'all. But special thanks to the patrons: Carl J., Chris Prado, Super Old School 1994, Ismail Gadamsi, and the OG himself, Linda Williams. They support what we do directly. They can contribute to the request pool, where they can, every couple of weeks, we're going to do a Patreon-driven request, such as this episode from Super Old School 1994. And when you sign up, we'll cover whatever album you want, even if it's your own music or your boys or some shit the following month. That's something there. We also are going to have a private Discord for our patrons, and a public Discord, which you can find the link to in the description. I don't know what Discord really does yet, but now we have it, and it's open on my computer.
We're going to be Discording like crazy.
That's right. Bonnie will join it, so you can talk to her. She doesn't know it yet, but she does.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you can join us there, and you can get the private one, and we can have, like, I'll pay more attention to the Patreon ones, because they're kind of earn that right a little bit more for my immediate attention. We'll see how that goes. There's no promises on that. You'll get access to content early. Anyway, we'll be able to grow, get better shit, a better setup, move it out of my apartment, all of that good shit. Otherwise, if you want to hit that subscribe button, pretty please hit that like button or dislike, whatever. Hit that comment mode. That's the most important part. We can talk up in there. Yep. That would be super amazing of you. Help us grow.
And he doesn't stop talking, so feel free to like
tell me to shut up if you want. I mean, then it would be a lame ass fucking show if I never talked, but still.
True.
But I also dropped a project recently. It's on all the streaming services. All the songs are on this channel, and so you can check that out in the description of this video. On that note, I think I'm out of shit to plug at the end, so thank you. Have a wonderful week, and our ladies album that should have been episode 90 is coming next week. Peace.
Bye, guys.